Greetings and good afternoon, Chuggalos, to day 6 of the Chuggalo Advent Calendar Spectacular. I'm your host for this episode, Matt, and today we are going to be drinking Brink Brewing Company's Nightbringer. There's a lot on this can, so be sure to check out my cohort JT's review later today. So we're going to go with the crack right away on this one. So this is an Imperial Stout, ringing in at 10%. Holy cats. So we've had 2 stouts, 2 sours, an IPA, and now back to a stout. I have, for full discretion, while I was working out, I let this beer warm up a little bit. As Chuggalo Mike alluded to in a couple episodes ago, you're supposed to let stouts warm up. Even though I like drinking my beer ice cold, you may do it the same with stouts. In particular, you're supposed to let them warm up. Wow, that is every bit of... Holy buckets. Okay, so again, Nightbringer. It's an Imperial Stout. Brink Brewing, just a little bit about Brink Brewing. We're back to Ohio for this episode. This is actually out of Cincinnati. So where I'm broadcasting from, it's about 45 minutes away. Cincinnati is a very has a very rich brewing culture. Rheingeist is out of there. Mad Tree, Taft, one of our favorite ones, Urban Artifact. But Rheingeist is probably the biggest one. After you get out of like Moorline does more of your ancient lagers and more of your German purity law inspired beers. So they're the biggest and most historical, and probably followed by Hudepohl. But the one that myself and my circle of friends either asked me to bring back to Wisconsin or Minnesota is definitely Rheingeist. So before this, I'd never heard of Brink. And that's crazy just thinking that they're 45 minutes from me. But that just shows you in the last 5 years how much the craft brewing culture has exploded, that there's a brewer that's doing production stuff, not just on or front of house stuff, and I haven't heard of it. So a little bit about Brink outside of that. So just reading about it, you can go find out more at brickbrewing.com. But in their closing about us, their background is a couple brewers from Colorado, which really where the craft brewing movement started, probably on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, and then Colorado. They say, and I quote, "As strange as it might sound when you visit, be sure to check out the bathrooms," and it's got bathrooms highlighted bold, "and ask the staff about them." The interesting thing I took away from that, besides the bathrooms, is they have a community table, and they encourage people to come and just visit. So again, if you're in Cincinnati, or it might be a place that JT and I have to go check out with either Chuggalo Stev, who's been following us on this journey, or Chuggalo Phil. I'm hoping Phil is short for father-in-law. I know his name is Scott, but I like Phil. Maybe I'll get that to stick. But on to the beer. It's very drinkable for 10%. It doesn't hide the fact that it's an Imperial Stout. I want to say milk stout because there's a richness to it. And just reading a little bit on the can, it doesn't say too much about the ingredients, so you'd have to go to like a secondary website. But it drinks really smooth for it being a 10%. This hides the booze very well. Watch me get to the end of the can, and then I would look like the last episode if you've been watching that. But this is truly a delight. I want it colder though. And again, I know, and I'm going to get lambasted for it, and that's perfectly fine. It's the thing with craft beer. There's strokes for all the different folks out there, that's for sure. This is fantastic. A couple of these, typically with like a boozy or something that's aged in like a whiskey barrel or something like that, it's typically a one-off, or you need to have something palatable with it, whether it be meat or something else to accompany it. This is fine, perfectly fine by itself. This is really good. Wow. Off the top rope, I'm going to give this one a 4 or 5. This is fantastic. I would be hard pressed to give this to somebody like in my inner circle. I'm very curious to see what Chuggalo Stev thinks about it, because Stev's wheelhouse is definitely stouts. So anytime he gifts us beer, it's typically stouts. Wow, this is truly fantastic. There's a bitterness or something misplaced in the beginning, but everything smooths out like a Rolo candy is how I know Chuggalo Scott or Chuggalo Phil was saying about the Morning Coladita that he tasted like a caramel or whatever. I think that's in this. This tasted like a liquid version of a Rolo without the booze. Yeah, this is truly a delight, and I'm about halfway done with it. Again, wish it was a little cooler. Now I'm seeing here on the can, dark caramel, roasted coffee, and sweet dark chocolate. The coffee might be the bitterness, but you get the dark caramel. I don't know the difference between light or the different kinds of caramel. You have to excuse my naivety on that. But definitely the sweet dark chocolate. Definitely something that you're like 90+% cacao. Like when somebody's like, oh, I like chocolate, and you hand them a Reese's peanut butter cup, and they turn their nose up at you, and they're like, they take out something like Swiss or European. I'm excited to hear JT's thoughts. I listened to their marathon episode where they were catching up Chuggalo Phil. Brevity is the soul of wit with Chuggalos Dev. I've had a hoot the last couple of episodes doing those with Chuggalo Mikey. I will say this though, I appreciate the support. Posting these on my Facebook, the private messages I've been getting. Feel free to share some of those on YouTube, but thank you so much for listening. We still have Math in Public like 18 days after this, so it continues to just be exciting. So again, today, Brink, Nightbringer, Imperial Stout, 10%, all there on the bottom, very concise. Only a couple of notes to this beer, but man, does it nail it. Just that beginning bitterness, probably the coffee, is what keeps it from being that absolute home run. And that's a rarity for us on the pod. So thank you for listening, and cheers.